Since 1977, the Ceiba Lions Club has been a pillar of service and community care on the island. What began with 20 committed members has grown into a legacy of giving back, supporting those in need, and advancing the global mission of Lions Club International. From cultural events to signature service projects like Meals on Wheels and the Food Bank, the Ceiba Lions Club supports the elderly, disabled, and struggling families with compassion and consistency. Their health programs, like annual eye care support and glucose fairs, continue to promote wellness across the island. The club is also a champion for the environment, proudly maintaining an adopted hiking trail and backing local cleanup efforts to protect Ceiba's natural beauty. Several of its members have been honored with the prestigious Melvin Jones Fellow Award for their outstanding dedication, proof that the spirit of service is alive and well on Ceiba. The Ceiba Lions Club, serving with heart for the good of all.
Big birds, and we don't have so many. So in other parts of the Caribbean where they have them, the disease is far more prevalent. So that's good for Ceiba, but obviously not good in general for the environment. And Joe Oliver is who did the coral relocation and assisted the Ceiba Conservation Foundation with coral restoration. So he's also a cool guy to talk to when you're networking after this, socializing a bit. You tell me when you're ready, Adam. You ready? Okay, great. Is Carrie here? Carrie? Okay, no problem. Okay, so as I said, thank you to Colibri Cafe and Ceiba Conservation Foundation for hosting us at this beautiful venue. And a few things, I don't know which one it is though. We want to tell you about tonight, and every night our program is made possible through the generous funding of several organizations, but our primary funders are the Caribbean Culture Fund, also known as CCG, and public entity SEBA, which is another way of saying our government, and the Nature Environmental Policy Plan, which comes under public entity SEBA. So those are our big funders that make this program possible. But it's also not possible without the support of all of these private companies. So look for the logos and maybe do a shout out if you go to their businesses and thank them for supporting our program. Tonight's speaker is sponsored by the Cottage Club, a beautiful property located in Windward Side. And all of the accommodations of our experts are supported by local sponsors, so you'll see that every night. So that's a wonderful thing. I explained to some people earlier that we're selling raffle tickets. Our raffle tickets this year, we have a goal of selling 1,000 raffle tickets, and that's going to specifically target supporting Michiel and his team of scientists that are coming January through March. And we call that Critter Quest. And tonight's presentation is specifically going to explain the program that he runs and why it is so important to SEBA. Upcoming events. So today is Sunday for those of you who are on vacation. On Tuesday, our next presentation will be at Amanhana, which is just down the road, also known as the pizza place. And that's when Carrie Dobson will be presenting. She said she's coming here tonight. I'll introduce her. Oh, you are there. Oh, she snuck in. You have to stand up and say hello. Okay, that's Carrie. And Carrie's Field Project Dive will be on Wednesday afternoon, October 8th. And these are hands-on citizen science dives that you can learn a lot from and actually contribute to her work. So sign up with us at the tent with SEBA, with your dive group leader, however it works. If you do a field project, whether it's terrestrial or marine, you get a free hat. And they're pretty cool hats. So you get a choice of a bucket hat or a baseball hat. And of course, we made sure they were eco-friendly. They are ethically sourced and made from recycled plastic bottles. So before we get too far here, I'm going to introduce you to tonight's speaker. Prepare to crawl into the world of SEBA's tiniest inhabitants with Michiel Boeken, a passionate ecologist who fell in love with the island back in 2010. From monitoring orchids and red-billed tropic birds to studying ground beetles and other critters with pitfall traps, Michiel has dedicated years to uncovering the secrets of SEBA's unique biodiversity. He recently led the exciting Estafette. We'll let him explain that. Estafette is a Dutch word. Sorry to all the Dutch people that I just slaughtered that. Expedition, that's why we call it, otherwise known as Critter Quest, that revealed new species and deepened our understanding of this incredible island's ecosystem. Join Michiel as he shares his fascinating findings and stunning photos from the field. Please give a round warm of applause for Michiel Boeken, SEBA's very own biodiversity detective.
Thank you very much, Lynn. And thank you, everyone, for visiting me here on island again. This is the word estafette, which is in Holland quite understandable, which isn't a Dutch word at all, but originally a French word. The English word for estafette is relay. So we organized a relay expedition, and well, I will explain more about it. Somewhat what I am going to tell. First, a little bit about my connection with SEBA. Some theory, what is biodiversity, why is it important? How did we organize this whole estafette expedition or critter quest? And the most interesting, of course, is the preliminary results. Only a few examples for results. The final results, we have to take some years, I'm afraid. But in the meantime, we have also future plans. So, back to the origin. About 65 years ago, there was a little boy, that was me, and on almost every photo, I was looking somewhere in the grass or in the garden to look for small animals or flowers or whatever. Well, not very much did change, so I grew up. I studied biology, and before I finished my studies, there was a massive unemployment under biologists in Holland. So I entered the education. And after almost 30 years in the same school, I applied for the position as principal here on SEBA. And well, I thought Jonathan Johnson couldn't miss out. I'm sorry. Originally, I was only hired for 1 year, but I loved the work so much, the children, the colleagues, the island, and especially the nature, that I took a second year. For I knew myself surrounded by whole nature, and during my stay, I made an inventory of all orchids here on island, mainly wild orchids, sometimes spread out in the wild, but most of these are wild orchids. Some already disappeared. For instance, this one grew only at one spot on a dead trunk. The trunk was blown away in a hurricane, so that species is not here anymore, unless there is perhaps a new seedling which is going to flower within 10 years or something like that. In the meantime, I was asked to set up the monitoring of the tropic birds here, and that was very nice to do. Every week, in the weekend, I went out for the colonies, and it was heartbreaking to see a just hatched chick, and after some weeks, the same chick was a little bit larger, and within 3 months, it was grown a little bit fatter than his parents, and then it flew away. Next week, Sunday, we have a tropic bird hike. I hope there are enough birds back to see also some on nest. But we found out. Last week there are only very few nests occupied. Now a little bit about biodiversity. This is a nice image of biodiversity, or better, the lack of biodiversity. This is an image of grain collecting in Australia. And Australia is very important for the wheat production, especially for export to China. And well, when you look at this magnificent photo, you see only a few different species. We have the wheat, we have the people operating the harvest combines, and a few trees at the end of the picture. And perhaps you have heard last month there were found a few very tiny 3 millimeter large beetles in package of disposable diapers, important from Belgium to Australia. And whole Australia was in panic. For these little 3 millimeter beetles, known as bread beetles, they can infest the whole crop, and ruin the whole harvest, and that would be detrimental for the whole export to China. So they got millions of Australian dollars to collect all the packages of disposable diapers all over the country to be sure this beetle was not imported in Australia. Well, such a system you can compare with a single antenna. There are very little connections, and well, when we put up it here on Seba, you can understand with the first storm it will be blown away. And in such a system where the biodiversity is extremely low, the only way to maintain the situation is to use tons and tons of pesticides. A better solution for sustainable use is like the antenna tower here on Seba. Well, now it's only until here, but this tower was for years very solid, for it has many connections, and with all those connections it could stand there for years. And of course that is built after the example of the Eiffel Tower in Paris, which also has numerous connections. And all these connections, they form together the food web. And here is a very, very simple food web with only two plants, tomatoes and beans. The tomatoes are eaten by snails and also by caterpillars. Caterpillars are parasitized by wasp larvae, and when the larvae hatch till wasps, the wasps can be eaten by spiders, and spiders are eaten by birds, and so on. And the more complex a food web is, the more stable an ecosystem. This is a very simple food web, for there are, of course, is not one species of caterpillars, but there are many. There are many more plants. There are many species of snails. There are 100 species of beetles. So, in a food web like here on Seba, the situation is way more stable than in the monoculture in Australia or the soya production in Argentina, which was the photo with the pesticides. So biodiversity, there are lots of definitions. This is one of the definitions used by the University of Wageningen in Holland. So biodiversity is not only the species, but also the genetic variation within the species, and variation between ecosystems, and so on. And there are three massive threats for biodiversity. The first one is habitat loss. Actually, that was the subject of Joe Oliver's presentation the day before yesterday. The spot before the new harbor had to be cleaned, and they were trying to transfer all the corals, or the main corals, to another place. A second threat are the invasive species. In fact, that was the subject of Peter Johnson's presentation with the black spot syndrome. And the third threat is climate change, which will be one of the topics Joe Wunderle next week will talk about. When we look at Seba, habitat loss, you can think, well, that is not so very important. But when you see everywhere along the road Jeff Johnson standing with property for sale, or see advertised Mahogany Bay Resort to be developed, I don't know if all these things are going on, if habitat loss is such a minor point here on Seba. Invasive species, you may easily think about the corallita or the goats, which are almost gone now, or the cats and the rats, but also in the tiny critters there are many invasive species, as shown by Peter Johnson. And climate change is a very problematic thing, also in the tropics, which may cause more severe hurricanes and periods of drought and extremely rain. Anyway, to preserve biodiversity, it's essential to have knowledge about it. And there is one step further. When you have knowledge about the biodiversity, you can use the knowledge to monitor the biodiversity. When you know there is only a certain insect, it's only on the top, and you don't find that insect anymore on the top, that is a sign that there is something changing. So biodiversity is also a kind of thermometer for how the whole ecosystem is working. Well, that about some theory. Now, how do we come to the knowledge of biodiversity? There are several possibilities. We have scientific institutes like universities and musea. They do very good work, but they are always with too little people. Citizen societies are very important, and that can be on all levels. We have educated scientists like me. That doesn't mean that I know everything from every group, but I am educated and I can understand more or less what I'm doing. But next to educated scientists, there are also species specialists, not formally trained people, but often, we are going a little bit fast. Often self-made people who specialized in one group. I know in Holland, for instance, a person, he wanted to study biology, but his mathematics was very weak, so that was no way possible. So he became an artist, a painter. But he specialized himself in one group of small wasps, and now he is the one of the three main experts on the whole world in that group of wasps. But also when you don't have any knowledge, when you just make photos and upload them in platforms like iNaturalist or big book with articles about the whole, when you are interested, a copy of this book is in See and Learn office. So now we come to the Seba Estafette Expedition, or Seba Relay Expedition, or also known as the Critter Quest, that originated on request of participants of the Bonaire expedition. Naturalis said, well, perhaps within a few years we organize a next expedition, and then to Curacao or to Aruba. And then a lot of people said, oh no, again such a boring dry island. Can we not visit a nice island? Michiel, you know something about Seba, can't you organize an expedition to Seba? So I was here in summer 2023, and I contacted Lynn, for I thought, well, when we do that, it would be nice to have a sort of see and learn small replica. So I contacted Lynn about how do we think about this idea and how about outreach. Well, Lynn was enthusiastic, and then I started to find funding. That amazingly went quite well, just enough money to pay an accommodation for 4 months. The public entity Seba gave me a collection permit for all members, and we had some cooperation with the Conservation Foundation. So then we could start, and the start was during the See and Learn last year with 2 teams. Here is Roel and Rosanne, the specialists on springtails. Here is Jan and Aglaya, specialist on very many groups working at Naturalis. That was a part of See and Learn, and then after 2 months of stop, we went on in January, and then that was where it was called the Critter Quest, with a nice logo. 6 teams every time, 2 weeks. Were here, were specialists in many different groups. We had many different trap methoding and catching methods. Well, when you are interested in the working, you can ask, but I think we better can go to some results. Among others, we collected lots of moths, also butterflies, but I don't go to talk about that this night. The results is a slow process. For most of the experts are all either have full-time jobs or are full-time retired, and they are even more busy than when they have full-time jobs. For many groups, it's very hard to find any literature. Sometimes you have to collect the literature for North America, Middle America, South America. Sometimes there is on Cuba, but only in Spanish, and when you don't understand Spanish, that's another problem, and so on. We took lots of samples for DNA sequencing, but that's a time-consuming operation. Just 1 month ago, the first results of the DNA analysis came through. Especially when you have the idea that you have a new species for science, it's very time consuming, for you have to look all related species. Are you really sure it's a new species, and so on, and then you have to publish, and also that will cost lots of time. But it's going on, and our expectation is that we found many hundreds of new species to Seba, many of them new to the Caribbean, or anyway to the Dutch Caribbean, and dozens, perhaps over 100, new to science. Well, that's a nice result. And I would show some examples. This is a very peculiar animal. It's known as the bristly millipede. It's only 4 millimeters long, has all kind of bristles at its sides and in its tail, and he uses that for when he is attacked by a spider or by an ant. The bristles break off and hurt the enemy, so it's a kind of defense mechanism. This is at this moment an unknown species from a totally new group of millipedes here on Seba. And another is this is not a very nice picture, for the animal was wet. I didn't have time by then to prepare it and make it dry. This is a web spinner. It's a tiny insect, about 5-6 millimeter long. This is a female without any wings. He has 6 legs. And the strange thing of web spinners is they have broadened 4 legs and they can spin silk with them, just like a spider does with his abdomen. These insects can spin with their front legs, and they make tunnels in the ground in which they live in a social structure. Only females with their larvae. When there is a male hatching, the males usually have long wings. They fly away, try to mate and die. They live only a few days. Web spinners were not known here on Seba at all, and we found them on several places. This one is from the Tent Beach, but we also found them at the summit of Mount Scenery. So perhaps there are different species. And a few groups I would like to show more in detail. The springtails, or Collembola. There are not in the Dutch Caribbean species register, so on none of the 6 islands any springtail is ever described. And this is a not very nice photo of one of the springtails here from Seba. The thing of springtails is they have 3 pair of legs, and that was the reason that they were included in the insects. But they have some characteristics so separated from the insects that they form a complete new class. One of the characteristics is this long fork. Normally, when it's alive, it's folded under the belly, and it can be dismissed, where shoots the whole animal like a rocket to the air. You can calculate that the height compared with the height of the animal itself, where it can be catapulted in the air, is to be compared with we catapulted over the Eiffel Tower. Another characteristic is this structure, which forms a little sticky thing where it can adhere itself to the surface. Here is the same individual from above, and you can see the spring fork here. There are three different forms of springtails. This is the elongate one. This is a new species to science, here found on Seba. The second form is the globular, also new to science. And the third, Roel didn't have a photo himself. We call it the cloud-like structure, very small, often not longer than 1 millimeter. Roel had a very, very nice presentation last year for See and Learn. He found about 35 species here on Seba, about 6 for the cloud-like ones, with probably 1 new to science, 9 the globular, with 4 new species. He's busy to describe them. I guess the publication will be ready in about January. And about 20 species of the elongate one, of which 5, or at least 5 new to science. Also, this globular one was a new species, and this elongate one, which as well. So about 30% of the springtails here on Seba are at this moment only known from Seba. That doesn't mean they don't exist somewhere else. For when we would go to Stasia to collect springtails, there is a quite big chance that we find some of the same species. But that's not sure. For Rosanne, who was here together with Roel, first was a few days on Stasia and collected their springtails, and not any species she collected there was found here. Not any species found here was found on Stasia. So it might be that the springtails are very island specific. So here is the full picture of the elongate one, also a new species living in the rainforest on the Mount Scenery. And another group I would like to tell something about are the Hemiptera. Hemiptera means half wings. And well, we can see why they are called half wings, but first some other characteristics. They have all piercing, sucking mouth parts, so they can put their mouth somewhere in and suck the liquid. Most of them are plant parasites, so they are sucking plant liquids. Some are also predators or animal parasites, sucking blood or other liquids. And there are 3 groups. The first group are called the Heteroptera, or the true bugs. This is the biggest true bug here on Seba. And the reason they are called Heteroptera, which means different winged, is that the forewing consists for the half of a leathery part, and the top part is membranaceous. All Hemiptera have an incomplete metamorphosis, so the juveniles are resembling already more or less the adult ones, but get only the wings when they have the last metamorphosis. So this is the larvae, or the nymph, as we call it, from the same species. The other 2 suborders were formerly united as the Homoptera. For their forewings have the same structure, not half leathery, half membranaceous. But they are split up in 2 other suborders. This is still a true bug, a very small one. Can be nasty on avocado trees. One of the other 2 suborders is called the Sternorhyncha, consisting of aphids, like this one, aphids have often only female individuals. Their eggs are hatching inside the body, so are they pooping out the juveniles. And from some species, no males are known at all. Other Sternorhyncha are the scale insects. Lucas was here for 2 weeks. The first day he spent 2 hours time in a distance from that side of this bench to this side, and he was at the half of all his tubes he collected. But it takes lots of time to identify all these. Also whiteflies. Lucas found one of the scale insects only known from the Fiji Islands. And it's not known if it's indigenous on the Fiji Islands and came here as an invasive species, or it comes from somewhere else and it was also invasive on the Fiji. However, the third one is the Orcanorhyncha, the cicadas or true hoppers, leaf hoppers, and so on. Marco had many of them, and I'll show you some of his photos. Previously, especially at this moment in the species register, there is only one published true hopper, this one, and his name is Neopunana saba. It was discovered in 1983 here on Seba and never found somewhere else. Also not on St. Kitts, where is quite some research done. Marco found some individuals here last year, only females. But apart from this species, he found about 70 other species not being published and quite a lot not being described up till now. This is a very tiny one, only 2 millimeters. One of the most frequent cicadas here on island. Almost on every patch of grass, they can be found. Very nice animal, not rare at all. This is another, this is much larger, about 4 millimeters. And it was known from St. Kitts. In the past, a few specimens were found on St. Kitts. Here it proved to be very numerous. It is feeding on the aerial roots of the vines in the rainforest. Cubana strix, it's called. This is a strange one. It keeps his wings like a butterfly. Very common here on Seba, especially on the mountain. And not only on Seba, but over the whole Caribbean, it's very common. This is one of the species we got the DNA analysis. And the strange thing is, although all over the Caribbean they look the same, the DNA pattern is totally different from the DNA pattern from the population on Puerto Rico. So it might be that there is speciation going on, and this is going to be, or perhaps already, a new species, and the whole Caribbean species has to be divided in numerous other species. And this is a very nice one. Anyway, new to science, Paralebra, it's the genus, and Marco is going to publish the description of it. When you have suggestions for a species name, it's very welcome. A few things about spiders. Koen Verhoogd was here as a spider specialist. The strange thing is, especially in the young people, there are specialists in very many. So Koen is also specialist in some beetle families, specialist in lichens. But here he was for the spiders. And during the presentation, every team during CritterQuest gave a presentation after 1 week. He showed this slide. Before he came here, 76 species were known. And after 1 week being here, he estimated it on being 150 species, of which 25 undescribed. 3 weeks ago, he sent me this one, or 4 weeks. His estimate is now 180 species and 45 new species to science. These are a few of the new to described species. There's a small jumping spider and then a long-jawed orb weaver, and here is a vibrating spider. You know, I guess the vibrating spiders from in-home, when you touch it or it begins to tremble. It proves there are lots and lots of new species, undescribed species of that. I think on Bonaire, six different vibrating spiders were collected, all 6 new to science, 6 different species. And also here I brought one of the home where I was living to Koen, and Koen said, again, a new species to science. So there is lots to expect from this. At the other side of discoveries are the mollusks, snails and slugs. For these are quite well studied, especially because Tello Neckheim is visiting every now and then here Seba. There are about 30 species known from Seba, and we collected as many as we could find to collect DNA, for it might be that some species have to be split up in different species. This is one of the most intriguing. It's living only at the very summit of Mount Scenery. It has a small house. The house is too small to retract totally. That means that when the animal is out of moist, it will dry out and it will die. This is the same species. The strange thing is, it is also known from St. Kitts and from Nevis and from Montserrat. Montserrat? No, not Montserrat. Dominica. And you can ask yourself, a species like this, which can't dry out, which can't fly, how comes that from Dominica or from St. Kitts to Seba? So this is especially interesting with DNA analysis to see, is this the same species or different species from the other islands? Another one is this. This I photographed in 2012. There was the first slug which was ever found here on Seba. We didn't know the species. The group is known as the leather-leaf slugs. And the most invasive leatherleaf slug is the Cuban leatherleaf slug. When we came here last year, on almost every stone we turned, we found the same slugs. Sometimes with eggs, sometimes without. Had spread within more than 10 years massively over the island. We don't know exactly which species it is, but there are some risks on this. In the first place, these leatherleaf slugs can eat very much, especially vegetables. So for agriculture, it's a very harmful thing. And another nasty thing is that leatherleaf slugs are known as intermediate hosts for a kind of very small roundworms, nematodes, lungworms. And lungworms have the next host in a mammal, for instance a rat, but can also infect people, often causing infections in the brain or something like that. And a little bit the same story is about the flatworms. Up till, 2 years ago, nobody ever had seen, as far as I know, a flatworm here on island. There are no Saban or even Caribbean species of flatworms, terrestrial flatworms. In sea there are, but no terrestrial. Until in November 23, Makpak, some will know her, but there will be a reason not to give the real name, found one and published it on Observation or iNaturalist. And a few months later, UMRO published this little movie from a big flatworm, hammerhead flatworm, on his terrace. And you can see very nice that it's moving over his own slime. No, that one. During the expedition, we found at least 5, perhaps 6 different species here on island. Small, short ones, very elongate, long ones. Two species of hammerhead flatworms, all over the island. This one was up the mountain. This one we found in the bottom. This one in the Wales Bay Gut. So everywhere we can find, within 2 years, different species of flatworms. And there are some risks of these invasive flatworms. They are predators of both earthworms and small snails. And it's known that, especially in Florida, in the pot plant culture, the invasive flatworms have extirpated complete populations of snails. And especially also earthworms are very important for the fertility of the soil. So when we have here 5, 6 different species of flatworms eating all the way around, that might be quite harmful. But there is more. This is a specific species already found last year. This is the New Guinea flatworm, and the New Guinea flatworm is in the top 100 of the most harmful invasive species in the world. for it isn't only very predaceous, it also is an intermediate host for very look-alike of the nematode, which can live in the leatherleaf slug. This was another found here on island. And that's the red lungworm, and it can cause meningitis in humans. So when you ever find this species or another species of flatworm, please help with eradication. The most easy way is to pour boiling water over it, but then it's gone and no one can see it anymore. The other possibility is put it in a jar with alcohol, bring it to See and Learn Foundation, and we will be happy to pick it up. But better don't touch with your bare hands, for then you may be infected by the lungworms. And when you can make a photo, please upload it to iNaturalist or Observation.
What happens if you kill it?
Hmm?
What happens if you try to kill it?
If you try to kill it, well, when you kill it in alcohol or with boiling water, nothing happens anymore. There is one other silly thing of flatworms. It's said by one of the researchers, flatworms can be bored till they die. Flatworms can be trained in a simple a simple yeah, well, een doolhof. A maze, a simple maze, but when they have followed that maze for the third time, they stop and they dissolve themselves. Well, I found a very long one in the bottom last week. I put it very gently in a jar with a wet leaf. Halfway the day I had a look, it was just creeping around. And at the end of the day, I came home, wanted to put in alcohol. It was only some slime and nothing anymore. Even DNA can't be extracted from such a part of slime. Well, to finish with some other, a little bit more nicer ones, the Stasia bee. Stasia bee is one of my favorites. The Stasia bee, here on the photo, a male one. Well, the credits are somewhere below. It's from Jelle Develes, one of the world's leading bee specialists. It was only described in 1999 from Stasia, and after it was described, it was found in a museum collection from somewhere in 1920, originating from St. Kitts. But on St. Kitts, it's not found anymore. On Stasia, it's quite rare, and here it's very, very common. This is a part of a picture I made last week in the Spring Bay Gut. You can see all these holes, and every hole, that's the hole of one female. Here you see a female just crawling in. So, in my opinion, we better can rename it to the Seba bee, but when it's once published, you don't have to change it anymore. You can think, well, these solitary bees, that's not very effective. You have only one female in a nest. It has to look for food. in the meantime pollinating flowers, coming back to the nest, you can better have honeybees. For honeybees have about 40,000 labor bees in their hive, and so they can do much more for pollination, and you can harvest some honey as well. Um, but there is one tricky thing. The indigenous solitary bees are very specialistic in pollination. Um, and this is, I hope, with all the frogs we can hear it. This is one of these specialistic things. The carpenter bee. The low sound is when flying, the high pitch is when visiting a flower. What he is doing is called buzz pollination. Um, the plant, this plant, a nightshade species, just like a tomato or eggplant or bell pepper, um, they don't release any pollen with a honeybee. So when a honeybee would visit a flower, she doesn't find anything. It doesn't produce honey, and it doesn't release pollen. The only way to release the pollen is by vibrating in a special frequency. That was the sound you heard, the high pitch of this carpenter bee. And also the statia bee has the same ability. It can pollinate by buzz pollination. So although they are solitary bees, their pollination is way more effective in indigenous plants. Um, and but because honeybees are in such a huge numbers, they may outcompete the solitary bees, and well, the risk is that the statia bee will get less common here on Seba as well, when there are too much of these honeybees. Well, that was another story about actually invasive species. So honeybees can be regarded as invasive species. What next? Well, we have for some years on identification and on publication, and in the same time we are preparing for a new Critter Quest next year. We hope to find a new team or 6 teams from January through March. And we hope to focus on soil fauna, so millipedes, centipedes, all kinds of animals living in the soil. That's quite difficult, for literature is not easy to be found. We are going to monitor flying insects, catching in a standard way whole year long the flying insects. We plan to bring in a specialist on lichens. Do you know lichens? The symbiosis between an algae and fungus. And we hope to do some presentations and outdoor lessons for school kids and field projects as well. I think this was it.
So, can you reinforce to the audience the fact that all of these scientists were only here for 2 weeks each, and therefore the amount of things they found is remarkable, without being here at different seasons and
Yeah.
for a longer time?
Yeah. Indeed, everyone was here for 2 weeks. Some collected also species for other colleague scientists, but the main period was January until March, and of course also here on Seba we have seasons. So the people who were in October here found only young nymphs of cockroaches, whereas in February and March we found very many species of adult cockroaches. They are very interesting for cockroaches. Not only are indoor nasty insects, but also all over the place in the rainforest there are very small species. It's some of the scientists would prefer to revisit Seba in another time of the year. That's a little bit problematic in organizational way. So we plan again to be here from January to March. My experience here is when you come later in June or July, the number of insects is very, very small. And also now here in October, I find much less than you can find in January, February, March. So I think it will stay the best time of the year to organize something like this. Other questions? Either I wasn't to be understood totally, or I saw a finger somewhere.
You place a lot of emphasis on speciation. What is your definition of a different species? Is it mostly phenotype, or in the case of where you have two organisms that look the same but that have different DNA, would those be different species?
Yeah. Well, there is a turn at the moment to go from the morphological characteristics to the DNA analysis. So more and more the DNA will be the most critical characteristic. But in the case of the true hoppers, Marco, who is a very young guy, I think he's 27, but he's working in Holland in the I don't know how his institute is called in English, Plant Hygiene Institute, and he gets from all over the world all hoppers from import material. So he has a very broad view, and when he was walking with his net, and every now and then he said, "Oh well, this has to be a new species." He could see it just on morphological characteristics.
I have a question. As a non-biologist, why is there such a big difference in the amount of insects in January and now, for example?
Why is there? The question was, why is there such a big difference between the amount of insects between different seasons? Mainly, it has to do with the moisture. Many insects are hatching in their fertile stadium, so as an adult, just after the wet season. And when it's too dry, they die off. They have laid eggs and they die off. And then we have a period where only larvae and nymphs can be found, and after the wet season, the next generation is hatching again. Um, the pump is for me louder than your voice.
Can someone help make it loud so Michiel can
Why do we have so many moths and so few butterflies?
That's well, that's not only here on Seba. It's everywhere in the world that the number of moth species is exceeding often more than 10 times or sometimes even 100 times the butterfly species. Only thing is most people don't see them. But here on Seba, I think we have about 35 species of butterflies, and the estimate for moth is at this moment about 300, but might be rising until about 800. And well, the butterflies form just a few families of the whole Lepidoptera order, and there are much more families in night active moth.
But in Holland, most of the butterflies are they rapidly declining. Is that also the case on this island or not?
That's something we don't know, for there has been done no monitoring for butterflies up till now. We tried to start with it last year, but we didn't succeed in it. There is a method when you can walk every now and then the same route and counting butterflies of the several species, and after a few years you can see patterns in that. But well, we need someone who will do that here.
All right. Okay, thank you. All right. Thank you, Michiel. Okay, thank you very much, Michiel. I hope everyone got a sense of how important it is to monitor Seba's critters, and